And welcome to Unity of Chautauqua. And believe it or not, I just, after a whole summer of being together with you and taking a month off, I'm so glad that we're back. And welcome to October. So I'd like us to begin with our welcome song. And by the way, I'm so excited by this. Janine has created for us a new welcome song. So here we go.
I didn't actually create it.
Yeah.
But I learned
You
it.
wrote.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, because it's brand new, is I'm just going to play it through once, and then I'll sing it. You can join in, and then you certainly can sing and join in by the third time, or whenever works for you. We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord. Please join me. We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord.
So let's take a moment now and allow those words to sink deeply. To be aware that in this moment we are creating together in consciousness a tapestry. A tapestry where each of our threads add to the beauty of the whole. And just as we add our threads, so do those in our life add threads to this tapestry. And so we open our hearts to appreciate, even in the most difficult times when we may not be aware of that oneness, that this tapestry is continually being woven by all of us that hold that love, that keep seeking that oneness. And so now we just take a breath, knowing that we are part of the one breath, this one moment, this one love. As we say our prayer together. Oh, great love, thank you for living and loving in us and through us. May all that we do flow from our deep connection with you and all beings. Listen to our heart's longings for the healing of our world as we open to the infinite field of compassion, wisdom, justice, peace, and radiant well-being that is always available. From this place of conscious oneness, we choose to live in your love. And so we offer our prayers in all the holy names of God. And so it is. Amen and amen. So just welcoming you to October, and just a reminder to those that will be joining in YouTube and joining us afterwards that aren't part with us today, that we are using the first Sunday of the month to explore embracing conflict and creating peace. And that's a kind of be an interesting topic and a difficult one too. And it just felt so relevant right now for us to look at a time when there's a lot of anxiety and trauma in our country, in our world, and to open ourselves to what part it is. So thank you for joining us in this exploration deep into that and to putting out that intention for healing. And just to remind you that you can sign up if you're not signed up to our email and you found us some other way. You can go to our website at unitychq.org and get all the information, and always find a link also there to our YouTube page and our Facebook page. And also just a reminder that I will publish some notes about today's lesson, some of my notes that I've put together, and that we are going to have a discussion group to take this deeper. This Wednesday evening from 6:30 to 8, you use exactly the same information that if you've signed up for our email, you'll get information, or even the one you got yesterday has the information. It's exactly the way you got on today. You can get into our meeting, and we're going to take this deep. So if you happen to be following along with our book, and you don't need to, just by being here at the lesson, you'll have all the background you need. But if you're doing that, we're looking at chapters 1 and 2 this Wednesday evening. So I hope that you will join us and add your understanding to what we're sharing today. So we're going to start again with music, and I am turning it back over to Janine.
Okay. All right, I'm a little challenged with allergies with the heat going on today, so if my voice cuts out, you can kind of tell. It sounds like it's gonna. You just keep singing, all right? All right, this is a new song for us here. "Swing Wide the Doors" of Daniel Nahmod. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Okay, now you know how it sounds. Ready? Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. There's a voice that I've heard for years. I learned to keep it inside. Well, now it's coming in loud and clear. I want a deeper life. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine.
Thank you, Janine. So I'm thinking about that song this week, and I'm not feeling it. At times, I'm having a rough time feeling that big, open, wide feeling of love and support. I am really, at times, buying into the conflict we're feeling. And coming together feels so important right now, because I realize not only this Sunday, but the next Sunday we meet is just a couple days before voting takes place. And there's a lot of anxiety in myself, in people around, in the country. And I understand that when I go to that place of anxiety and conflict and feel like something is against me or someone is against me, that I add more to it rather than being that present. So how do I understand the passion I have for healing and for justice and still be in a place where I can hold those two things, that peace of mind and yet that passion? And so I'm struggling with it. And so I thank everyone here for that opportunity for me to look at that. Hopefully you will join me in looking in that, and you will help me understand that with your ideas and your presence. So what this moment to me is calling us is say, who have I come here to be? And we are getting tested at probably one of the most potent times in our life to hold that place of where we're being called. I like this quote from Hilary Manley, and it says, peace is not the absence of conflict, but serenity in the midst of it. And I don't know about you, but I'm jumping into serenity and falling out of serenity, and I want to stay there more so that I can be that healing of the world. And so how do I get to that non-reactive awareness? And out of that awareness, my compassion, my passion, and my love are expressed forward. Well, about, I'm trying to think, it's been maybe 8, 9 years ago, I did this book. And I taught the class at night many times over the years. I was in church ministry, but I only did on Sunday the book. It's a lot to do on a Sunday to cover so much wonderful material. And just as I was getting ready to do that Sunday, I had flown in that Friday from Mexico. I'd gone to see a friend in Mexico. I've had a wonderful time. And as I was going through the gate, I got something that I'd never seen before. It's PSA pre-check. Some of you might have seen it. And that means that you can go through fast. They somehow decided that I was trustworthy. I didn't ask them to. And as I went through this line, which I'd never gone before, I didn't realize you don't take off your shoes. You don't have to do this. And I started taking off my shoes. And the woman behind me said, "Are you kidding me? Didn't you read the sign? Are you dumb or something? You're holding up the whole line. Walk through." Well, I was laughing because exactly what I was teaching that Sunday, I did the opposite of. I looked at her and said, "I've never been," I got really mad, turned on her, and I couldn't believe. Now, silently in my head, I was saying the B word. I didn't say that to her, but I thought it. And I saw that immediate reaction of, "You are so rude, give me a break." And after I walked through the gate and she went in the opposite direction, I said a prayer. I just couldn't believe it. And when I told my congregation that on Sunday, they were just laughing so hard because the truth is, we're human. We are human. And I heard Richard Rohr describe it this way, is that we're sometimes like an electrical wire. What comes in, so if some negative energy comes through this wire, we just pass it on and send it off without even thinking about it. And then he compared the idea to, he said, now think about electricity. When there's a lot of electricity coming through a very strong wire coming in, what does it have to go through before it becomes safe? And if you were, like I worked for an electric company for 21 years, I was in the computer area, but I knew all about, they trained us a lot about how everything worked. There's something on a pole called what? A transformer. And so I named my lesson today, I want to be a transformer. Because what does a transformer electrically do? It takes a really high voltage and it steps it down so that it can safely go into your house, my house. And it does these wonderful things. But if that voltage came in right into our house before it hit the transformer, it would burn up everything and maybe even cause a fire. And so my reaction that day at the airport was kind of like I was not having a transformer between my response, and I just set the fire going. And I want to learn not to do that so much. And at the same time, to be compassionate, because the truth is, part of us are always going to feel that feeling. But can we, at some point, become the transformer? And before we react to our natural, our limbic brain that is there to defend us and has been with us longer in history than our prefrontal lobe, the part of our brain now that has developed in the last 20,000 years, and now has a different perspective, has a bigger vision, and doesn't see everything as danger. Can I move into that? Well, Richard Rohr pointed out that Jesus moved into that he was a transformer, that he took hostility coming towards him and he transformed it. And he didn't attack, even on the cross. Even that he had this method that I want to be part of, that I want to live with that Christ pattern that he lived with at such a deep level, that he took energy and hostility, which a lot was directed by the people of that day that didn't like this new message that the poor to the justice that he spoke of. They were angry. It was toppling the power system of the day. And yet and he welcomed even the tax collector, as well as the poorest, to his table to worship. And so one of the things that, and I had never thought of this before, but Richard Rohr said, wonder if we look at it this way. You've heard that it's said about Jesus, he took away the sins of the world. And now in my childhood, I learned a different meaning of that, but Richard Rohr suggested, wonder if that means he didn't pass that air consciousness that we know as sin on. Wonder if taking the sins away from the world was his teachings that said that. And one of his teachings, and it's in Matthew, and you probably have heard this a lot of times, I've used it a lot of times. I don't know that I practiced it that day in the airport, but he said this, why do you see that speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own? First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will clearly see how to take that speck out of your neighbor's eye. So imagine that log. I think he was inviting us to be that transformer, to take that trauma that we project out onto our neighbor, and to heal it in such a way that we have so much compassion for our neighbor that when we speak of the trauma that right now people are experiencing, our friends, our family, our nation, our world, that we can speak with such love to their trauma that we become transformers. So not passing it on. It means that we have to realize that we are not casual, innocent bystanders to what's going on. That we think if we have to switch this consciousness from the world is doing, and if you look at all you have to do is read the news and read different sides of the issues, and people are saying, this is being done to me. And so the switch in consciousness is, this is being done through me. That as we sang that first, our welcome song, and we talked about the tapestry, we can put some really terrible threads through that tapestry as a group. We can create a tapestry that is haggard and filled with anger, or we can create this tapestry, our thread. And our thread, while it's not the only thread, it's an important thread. Our thread is just because every step we take at creating a beautiful thread in this tapestry we call us, our family, the United States, our world, our planet, the very earth, we want to be putting that tapestry in and not passing along the air consciousness. So our book is that we're following along, and if you happen to be following along with this at home, it was mentioned in the email, it's The Eye of the Storm, Embracing Conflict and Creating Peace. And it's by Dr. Gary Simmons. He's also a Unity minister. And when he says eye of the storm, he uses I, not E-Y-E, but I, the letter I, and it's like, I have a choice in the storm. And this is what he says about it. He compares the trauma, the angst, the conflict to like a hurricane. And if we can move into the center, there's an I. And I'd like to read from it because he does the best quote of understanding this. And it's an image that stayed in my mind. He says, conflict is like a hurricane. A storm arises when two weather fronts converge. Is there some of that converging right now in the US? Are there two weather fronts converging? And let me just say that sometimes when I see signs for political signs for somebody I feel that's hurting our country, that weather front converges for me. I have to do a lot of work with that. Surprising. I never expected to feel this strong. So this is so perfect. There is friction and intensity as the temperature barometric pressure, humidity, wind speed change. So think about that right now. We are going through so much change. So is it not amazing that it feels like a hurricane in our country right now? That when you get that change and they're confronting with very different ideas, you have cold and warm weather merging right now. So similarly, he says, when competing needs, wants, and values combined with, here it goes, big one for all of us, misperception, defensiveness, and the need to be right, create an energetic field influence that is the storm of interpersonal conflict. And he says, it goes on to say, the I, where the forces of the storm are at equilibrium, is where the forces are at equilibrium. At the I is peace, calm, clarity, and stillness. And at the I is a place where we can experience the storm without resisting it. And we can even rename it. We can rename what we see. Now, let me just say that at least for me, I spend a lot of time in the winds of it. And all I have to do is read the news, or like I say, see a political sign or something hostile. And so I think, wait a second. I think I'm right about some of these things. I think there is some injustice going on. I'm concerned about the earth. Then I have to question myself. Am I effective, though, swirling in this? It's not that when we're swirling, and all of us are, and a big percentage of our country is swirling in this hurricane-like winds where there are conflicting ideas. And it does wake us up, that anger, that angst. However, we can't transform it till we move to the center. It's not like we go to the center and say, oh, I'm just going to hang out here in peace and love, which is a good thing too, because we know our consciousness contributes. But there's also a place where we become authentic and principled. We start seeing the solutions that are effective, that are loving, and we become so compassionate. And the more we can move into the I, and to be honest with myself, I know I'm going to go out there and swirl in the storm, and then I'm going to come back in the I. My whole spiritual practice is to come back. An example, my husband and I go to this dinner at our country club. He plays golf a lot. I don't, so I don't know all these people, but we go to a dinner, and quite a few people hold a different political view than I do. And some are very verbal about it. And months ago, one of them made fun to one of the candidates when we were still in the primaries that I cared about, and called her name and did some funny things about her. And I'm like this, oh, okay, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Get to that peace, get to the place of peace. And so I looked at him and I said, you know, I really care about her and what she has to say. And she's really changed my mind and opened my thoughts to so many things. And he went, oh, okay. And then I made an effort every time I saw him, because I walk with Sandra D, my dog, all the time. And every time I saw him, I made sure I said hello. I kept my heart open. Don't care. That's one part of him. It's not everything of who this man is. He has a loving family, a grandchild. You know, I understand he has a different way. But I understood that my part of the healing is for him to know I have a different idea than he has about what is good for our country. But I don't kick him out of my heart. And that we both, and this is the hard one to come to, can we both come to a place where I understand that he cares too, but he has a different idea about what's caring. If I can get under the irritation about what he said and know that both of us care. I have a different perspective. I have different information. I may think he's misunderstood the information. He probably thinks I do too. But the only way we're going to heal this right now is for us to speak our truth, but speak it in such great love that we don't kick anyone out. So, back to Jesus on this. And he said this, and I think this is the same idea about being a transformer, that we go to the center, that when we learn this skill of transforming, and we can stop in a moment and not jump into, I can't believe they said that, and we can transform, we move to the center. And some of his other advice was, resist not evil. Resist not error thinking would be how I would say that. And let's look at another story of his that I don't know, it touched me deeply. And this one is of the woman that was caught in adultery. And the Pharisees and the scribes bring her to Jesus, and they have an ulterior motive on this. They are upset that people are following him. They're the leaders of the church. They are angry, and they're thinking, how can we trap him? And so we're going to set up some conflict and make it difficult for him to have either way he goes, he's going to lose. Because if he follows the Moses law that says she should be stoned, then he's a true prophet. He calls himself a prophet. People are calling him a prophet. Well, then he has to follow Moses's law. But if he's lenient on her, then he is not a prophet. And if he is then following Roman law, which says only the Roman officials can decide who's killed or not at this point in Jewish history. So they bring her, they said, what's up here, God? What are you going to do? And I love this part because I feel like this is Jesus entering the center. Because here's this conflict, and I'm sure he understood what was going on, the hostility. This hostility is coming towards him, and he bends down, and it says he's writing in the sand. And I think this is his time when he moves from that limbic brain of wanting to defend yourself and wanting to fight back and wanting to, because can you imagine? Let's imagine now he fought back with them. This would give them more credence to go out and spread this world. And Gary Simmons says it in the book. He said he's a Taekwondo black belt. And he talks about the fact, like, and we did this on Sunday at the church when I spoke about this at church. I had somebody come up and I said, stand near me. And I pressed on their shoulder, and I was pressing them and saying and pushing harder and harder. And the more I pressed, guess what they did? To keep their balance, the more they pressed back at me. And how does that feel? And so in Taekwondo, I said that wrong. What you do is when a person comes at you in conflict, you move with their energy. You're moving with their energy, and you can throw a person bigger than you, a bully, let's say, that with bully consciousness, if you can move into understanding their energy, you can allow them, you can, instead of them hitting you and pushing against, you can move them past you. And so Jesus is in that kind of energy, I think. And then he stands up, and you probably all know the line. He says, whoever has not sinned can throw the first stone. And it goes on, the scriptures, I love this part. It says, and the people started turning away. Whoever has not made an error, who's never ever messed up. Again, that idea of taking the log out of your eye before you go and take it out of your, who of you have not? And it said the older ones went first. I'm one of those older ones. Do I have a few errors in my history? You bet. And I just love the fact that the older you are, the more you have got to process with this sort of thing. And so what was he saying there, though? He was making them understand her error, the error that she, probably in her actions, hurt someone. But they've hurt people too. And you see how he brought them together to say, we're one. You've hurt her. I've hurt people. She's hurt people. We've all done that at times. And so they could no longer, it broke that whole conflict up. And then my favorite part, and the minister, when I was at First Unity and working on the staff, my minister, Alan Robotham, who soon had transitioned a few years ago, and one of my favorite people in the world and favorite ministers, lived in this big open-hearted, and he had a picture of Jesus with this. And he had him, Jesus and this woman, and they were standing eye to eye, and Jesus had his hands on her shoulders. On her shoulders. And the thing goes that he asks, where are those who condemn you? And the woman says, they're gone. And he says, and these were on this picture, these words, neither do I condemn you. Somebody says something, a racist, that just comes and hurts. And your friends, it would hurt your friends, some of your friends, if they heard that. And can you say, before you tell them how that feels, can you say in your heart quietly, neither do I condemn you. Neither do I condemn you. We've all done it. We've all done it. So why is it so hard? Why do we stay in the storm so much? Just a few thoughts that Gary gave us in the book. He says that we're searching for what's missing in our lives, and we think it's out there. And if it's out there, we're searching for our wholeness and our meaning. And because our culture teaches us it's out there by how good are your grades, how good is your job, how much money do you have, all the things that we attach to success, it then means that we control our lives. And instead of going to our heart and allowing our heart, our divinity within us, to create a place where we draw to us the things that serve us in love. We are out there with our culture, our parents, all the things that have taught us, and we're fighting for those what? Limited resources. Because when we look at life that way, it's limited. And if you get it, I'm not going to get it. So to come into the center, to the eye of the storm, means this is a place where there's enough for everyone. So that's one of the things. The other thing he talks about, and I love this one, is that we have a gap in our awareness, that our human perception is incomplete. And so we are very good at filling in the blanks about other people. We're not as good about filling the blanks in about ourselves. The log that Jesus says is in our eye, in our eye that we can't see. We kind of give ourselves often the benefit of the doubt, even when we don't like ourselves often and we're critical of ourselves. When it comes to some behavior, we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. And yet, there are some people that are right now saying things that are causing some real trauma. And if we could understand and fill in some of the gaps and see that trauma with great compassion. And in fact, some of what I call the trauma people that are really inventing a lot of trauma right now, I spend time in prayer, finding a place beyond what they're creating to hold them in love. Because I feel like the beginning step, not the only way, but the beginning step is for me to stop pushing against the trauma they're creating and realize that they couldn't be creating it if they weren't feeling it. Just like when I yelled at that woman back who yelled at me at the airport, some part of me is unhealed that feels it needs to defend itself. And I still have work to do on that. And so this gap of awareness, and it has to do with everything, prejudice, all the prejudices we hold about certain people. And we might think, well, I don't hold prejudices against Black people, but do I hold prejudices against people that are prejudiced about Black people and think they should have less rights? My husband once said that to me. He said, you're just as bad. You're prejudiced against prejudiced. And that doesn't mean that I don't hold that justice and loving the earth are important and need to be spoken of. But until the place I can come where I can understand that I have a gap in understanding, and what I've been doing about that gap is because I realize that I have lots of gaps, that I don't, it so shocked me about the way some of our politics has gone. So about 4 years ago, I started reading all these books from white fragility to evangelicals and their understanding of the world, to which I don't understand, it baffles me, and to the hillbilly elegy, which, if you know Chautauqua, they do a lot of these books. Part of the book study there is for us to have a perspective. And I read once called Homeland just recently about the flyover area and what it is like to grow up in an area and the belief systems and the opioid crisis. And I've gone on and on in the last years trying to get to fill in that gap where I don't, and systemic racism. There's one. I'm thinking that it's just on a personal level racist. I understood the big picture a bit, but not to the extent of what's happening. And that has just been such a healing for me, so that I can be so much more compassionate with different viewpoints. So when we got to look at what story we're telling the world, and where's the gap in that story, the gap about ourselves and the gap about each other. And then finally he says, in these couple first chapters, he said, we're a house divided against itself. And are we not in our country a house divided against itself? In the outer part of the storm, as long as we stay on it, we're divided. But if we can, at times, more often practice coming into our divinity, then that is a place where we get a kind of guidance that no longer divides. So here are some just funny lines to just make us aware. So if we believe that outside forces against us, here's some of the kinds of thoughts. And these are, when we do that, we keep ourselves very small and limited, and we're so busy in the conflict, it's like out in the storm, that it sucks our energy. And so we're busy fighting this rather than creating healing in our world. And so what are some of the things we might do? And I've done all these, I confess. I gather evidence that I'm right and you're wrong. I do that when I read the paper sometimes. I get to blame. I win, you lose, or I lose and you win. We look at life that way. There's a cute story Tara Brock said about that. She said this little girl, preschool girl, goes to her mother and says, Mom, how were humans created? And the mother said, well, you know, God created us and created us with great love. And she thinks about that a little. And then she goes to her father and says, Dad, how are humans created? And he says, well, we came from monkeys and we evolved. This confused her. Why didn't her parents say the same thing? So she goes back to her mom and says, Mom, Dad said we're created from monkeys and you said that God created us. What's the truth? And she said, well, the truth is that I was talking about my side of the family and he was talking about his side of the family. This is what we do. We do this. I mean, that's a joke, but we're doing it on a serious level now. That's hurting people because we don't understand their side of the family, you know? We got them as the apes and we're the divine. And so we decide I'm better or less than you, are some of the thoughts that can go through our minds. I no longer see who you are. When I'm in the conflict, I don't see who you are. I no longer relate to you. And so now, guess what? I can hurt you. When you are no longer human, I can hurt you. And we're seeing this in some of the language in our country. So if I can live in that place of no one is against me, if we can adopt what Gary Simmons says, and this is hard, it's going to take practice, the entire universe, we have to agree that the entire universe is here to support us, that nothing can stop the good that is meant to be. As we move to the centers, we become the transformers. And anything, oh, this is a big one, anything that appears to oppose me is here to heal me. Wow, it's a mirror for me. Where's the trauma that's still stuck with me that throws you out of my heart? And so then I have to agree to take back the power I've given away. You see, when we come into the center, when we take that time like Jesus did to kneel down and wait to transform, that second is where our power and our freedom is. It's our power and our freedom. And so the line I use, and I've used it in times of conflict too, is besides neither do I condemn you, is there's one presence and one power. There's one presence, and we've said that in Sundays in Chautauqua. There's one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, that's working. And I want to be a co-worker with that energy. Jesus said it this way, seek first the kingdom. So you have some soul work. We're going to do some on Wednesday night. I'll give you some, and that is to look at your story. Look at the gaps. Look at what's sucking your energy. And you might want to journal about it and write, and do not condemn it. We want to move into that place, but by recognizing it and being compassionate with ourselves, the more we can be compassionate, the more when somebody else is acting out of their trauma, we can be compassionate for them. So I'll leave you this final from Gary. Everything that is for you or against you has its roots in you. Everything has some root in me asking for healing. And from the Course of Miracles, the holiest spot on earth is where ancient hatred has become present love. So we're going to move into a time of meditation. And I just want to say a little about this song. Janine did a really amazing job getting the person who sang this, because it's not on our list of permission songs to record, to agree to this. And I heard this in the 90s. And when I heard it, I was taking a class at a Unity church way out in California, in Palo Alto, a wonderful class about being a transformer. And at the end of the class, he had us sit and listen to this. And the speaker said, allow these words to be the words of God to you. Janine.
You can relax now. Come on and open your eyes. Breathe deeply now. I am with you. Oh, my sweet, sweet child. Who do you think you are? You are the child of God, and that will never change. You had a dream You thought we were separate, but now you hear my voice and you can relax now. Come on and open your eyes. Breathe deeply now. I am with you. You are the love of my life. You are my one creation. You are eternity, and that will never change. You had a dream, you misunderstood. You thought we were separate, but now you hear my voice and you can relax now.
So let's just take those words as we take a deep breath, knowing that we are part of the one mind, the one breath. And we take those things that have been worrying us and allow those words. We can unwind them. For that passion that we have for healing of the world comes out of us relaxing and remembering. To take those misunderstandings that cause us worry, wanting to control, and looking at them and realizing that there is this presence always calling so softly to our hearts. Remember. Remember who we are, who you are. And to remember who the other people in our lives are. We misunderstood. We forgot that we are one. And so as Thich Nhat Hanh challenged us to be open to both our agreements and those that disagree with us. He called us to say, I am you. I am you. I am the immigrant, boldly and bravely moving for a better life. And I am also the ICE patrol that believes that they are protecting our country. I am you too. I am the environmentalist who loves and cares for the earth. and I am the head of a company that pollutes the earth to create jobs. I am you too. I am the person speaking for social justice. And I am the fearful person that is afraid of that justice. I am you too. I misunderstood. I thought we were separate. But I am you, and you are me, and we belong, and we are here to heal together in the silence. Love heals us. Understanding heals us. Allowing no one to be the other. And so it is. Amen and amen.
You can relax now. Come on and open your eyes. Breathe deeply now. I am with you. You are the love of my life. You are my one creation. You are eternity, and that will never change.
Oh, deep breath of that. I don't know, I've got some tears going. It just brings back that moment when sometimes I forget, and the song brings it all back for me. So thank you so much, Janine, for going and pursuing that, finding that person and bringing that gift to me. And so now this is the part in our service when I invite you to know that abundance of who we are, and that your gift to this world is important. And so while we're not in person, we'd be giving a physical gift. And I invite you, if you choose to do that, on your email at the bottom, and thank you, many of you have already done that. There is an address to Kelly, our president and treasurer, that you can send that, making it out to Unity of Chautauqua. So I just really appreciate the financial support that we have received this year. And so let's just look at our So this is our prosperity blessing. And I love it that it's divine love that we are allowing to move in us. So would you say this with me? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am grateful. I am grateful.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And so before we say our prayer of protection, just to remind you, you can join us with the exact same information you joined us for this time. And, or if you're not on our mailing list, to get on it at unity.chq.org. And the next time, if you're not meeting us Wednesday night, next time we're going to meet is a few days before voting. And I really hope that you'll be there with us to set consciousness for that. And so we're going to set it right now for our earth. And I've got my world here. Many of you have seen this before. It's huggable. We used to pass this around the congregation to bless it. So say this with me as you hold the earth. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, as we move into that place of being a transformer. And so it is. And thank you, everyone.